Hello, this vid is going to be on trade gaps and South African infrastructure. Now, the reason for this is because I saw a video by another YouTube user where he was talking about the importance of trade and also between the difference between inequality in societies within nations and also globally. Like, he was comparing the United States and Europe. Well, I've done several vids on South Africa, so let's use South Africa as an example as well. Why should there not be trade gaps within society? Okay, well, this boils down to inequality. Okay, if you have inequality, then you're essentially cutting off different groups of people as they become more of a caste system where you've got an underclass of people and another group of people who can see all the movies and all the rest of it. Okay, now of course with South Africa the racial issue might come into this, but I'm talking specifically about in terms of within Afrikaner society. Okay, so there's no confusion. Well, if one part of Afrikaner society, even though the Afrikaners are quite cohesive as a people, was, for instance, hypothetically, unable to buy the means to survive, and thus they had to rent, which might be the goal of the ANC, I'm not sure. Okay, but typically conservative parties throughout the world have tried to create an unequal society because they believe that by creating an unequal society they can control society easier. Okay, if your enemy is poor, then they can't hurt you. That's their whole strategy. All right, and of course that's why when South Africa was an enemy of the Thatcherite government in the 1980s of Britain, Thatcher went and sent money and arms to the ANC. They're supposedly, she said, the ANC were a Marxist terrorist group, but then she goes and sends them arms and weapons. Well, she was an evil cunt, so, sorry about the language. But that's to be expected from her. But within society, there is say that you've got these two groups who are unequal. The people who are richer, they can't sell their labour to the people who are poorer. So therefore, they might end up basically living off their family's previous wealth. And thus, eventually, they end up having large houses, which they then have to sell off to the state because they can't manage them. That's happened all over England. Most of the large aristocratic houses have been taken up by the state because they've got heating bills of £130,000 a year. Okay, I don't know what that is in South African rand, and on the other hand, the poorer group of people, them who might have intelligent people in them, who might be able to contribute to medical science. The cliche is he could have developed a cure for cancer, but it's not. It's quite a truism, right? Or the motor car like Ford did. He started off very poor, but because they can't trade together, okay, there's always going to be that barrier to trade. Okay, and that's kind of like the borders between countries. Now, I'm not for globalisation. I'm very against globalisation. That's why I like the European Union, which people who are nationalists would think, hey, that's a bit of a paradox and a contradiction. If Kemp, you're a hypocrite for saying that. Well, European Union is a third way between globalisation, extreme globalisation, and extreme nationalism. And because they're sovereign countries, but they're within a trading community, that's a way. If you take that model and apply it to, say, the Middle East or South Africa, that you can solve these problems. So we must have an equal society because that allows everyone to trade. They said recently, well, I say in 2006, they did a study that said that if everybody had the same amount of wealth, everyone would have about £32,000, which at the time, the pound was twice as much as the dollar. So it would be $64,000, okay? For everybody in the world, that would be equal, okay? Well, you can't buy a house for that, okay? That's a common thing. But if price and supply are not, don't take away people's freedom of choice, okay? Price and supply adapt to people's choices. It's the other way around, okay? So we do have free will, and so if everyone had the same buying power, I know it would be in different currencies, so nominal value it might be different. You might have 100,000 rand in South Africa, but only 50,000 rand in Britain, but the same buying power all over the world. Then obviously, people who live in third world feudalistic shitholes, right? All over Africa and in the Middle East, they're not going to go, no, now that I've got the money to buy an iPod or a nice house or a nice car, I'm not going to do that, because, you know, that would be, I'd be going towards equality there. That would be a bit silly, wouldn't it? So all the different manufacturers and sellers would thus adjust their prices, okay? And that's been economically proven through the way that the European Union has developed the euro, you know. It's tried to create discipline within the different countries so that everyone has their own buying power, okay? Now, in my other vid on the banking system of a potential Boer republic, I said that you could have different banks whose notes would have different pictures on the front, but essentially they would be the same currency because they all work the same way. That is what a currency is. It's not the coins and the thing. That's just cash, okay? It's a different thing. Now, coming to South African infrastructure, all right? And now I've talked about inequality, and might talk about the ANC. Randir, in his vid, said that the Western Cape was like America and the Eastern Cape under the ANC is like Afghanistan, you know. And so the ANC talks about equality a lot, but they're not producing equality, whereas the Democratic Alliance, who are liberals, seem to. So my question is, one of my subscribers said to me that they're doing petitions. Well, you don't only do petitions which are just going to have the gate shut in your face, right? Although petitions are a good way to start. And obviously I'm sitting here in England and I'm not actually suffering the way that people are in South Africa, right? But if you got a list of all the businesses that the ANC are associated with, and not just associated with, people or own, but the ones they're associated with, and also you could get back at Thatcher for supporting the ANC in the 80s by producing a list of British Conservatives who own mining companies in there, and so boycott them, okay? Don't buy their produce. And you say, oh yeah, but the Bantu people in South Africa, they're dependent on those sort of businesses. Well, offer them free coupons in Boer-owned shops. So therefore you get a customer loyalty base. And just as in Myberg's vid, and I'm going to embarrass myself a bit by doing a bit of the sign so you know, where he says the Boer is never tired to put his hand on the plough and his rifle, so therefore you know, without me singing it. But just as the Israelis have done to towns where they get resistance from the Palestinians, you could have cooperative construction companies that produce roads that go from the Western Cape to the Boer Republic, okay? And so therefore you let the Eastern Cape wither on the vine,